A French revolutionary once summed up the totality of the politics of that revolution with one simple word: dare. As we look at the state of our movement, more than a year after Charlottesville, this is a spirit that we must seek to emulate. Instead, we are paralyzed, not only by infighting, but by those who are afraid to take action, who fear the slurs our enemies will affix them with, and who find it much easier to pin our hopes on outside actors instead of taking personal responsibility for our own success. Charlottesville and its fallout have been devastating blows to the movement. There is no hiding from that or pretending otherwise. But it is one thing to get knocked down, and it is another thing entirely to refuse to get back up. You will never win every contest. Often life deals you a bad hand, and sometimes things can seem hopeless. Despite all the setbacks, no matter the opposition, we must not only get back into the fight, we must seek to win it. We are not the monsters that our opponents paint us as. We must not be afraid of what they will say about us. They will always seek to vilify us. They will always say that our optics are bad and that our tactics are malign. We ought not to be reactionaries whose creed is that activism does not accomplish anything. Instead, we must be revolutionary in our mindset. We will not save our people by responding incrementally to our dispossession. The idea that we should love our people and that it is okay to be white are revolutionary ideas in this day and age. We should not meekly seek the permission of our enemies to speak or to exist. To borrow from Patrick Henry, the chains of our slavery are already forged. We hear them clanking on the fields of Boston. The men who founded this country, from whom we inherit an incredible heritage, were proud men who knew that when faced with an insurmountable injustice, the only appeal to be had was to heaven and to the God of hosts. We need not share their faith to share that spirit. Our revolution is a social revolution, not a military one. We must confront the facts on the ground and the reality of the situation. Our people are dying deaths of despair in numbers comparable to industrial mass slaughter. The institutions of commerce, of learning, of law, and of civil society, which our forefathers built, have been taken from us and made into the instruments of our destruction. They do not and will not provide us with a neutral platform. They will never accept any pro-white ideas or activists into their ranks. And when discovered, they will purge anyone who dares to resist them. Even groups we may have held out hope that would pursue a redress of our grievances are set against us, pleading for President Trump or the Republican Party to save us. To act in a way that benefits or even acknowledges white people is both cringing and ineffective. Look at what happened with Steve King, who had the gall to say something defending the historical legacy of white Americans to the media. Not only did he explicitly attack white advocates the moment that they called him out, but he voted for his own censure. Rebranding pro-white politics as American nationalism is an absolute and utter farce. Wrapping yourself in the flag while making Holocaust jokes or advocating the dumbest forms of misogyny will not get you into the halls of power. Embracing the system which is orchestrating the destruction of our people will not engender their sympathy or their pity. We should not be intimidated by our enemies into hiding our truth or failing to pursue our agenda. This is a strategy which is as meaningless as it is useless. It has absolutely no chance of working, and we have all seen its failure. Choosing to pursue it anyway shows a failure of leadership. We must take ownership of failed strategies, whether it is faux American nationalism or the rally in Charlottesville, and we must learn from our mistakes. Only then can we lay out a clear strategy, a coherent agenda, and pursue realistic, achievable goals. It is hip to attack pro-white activists for having bad optics. This is a servile mindset, which has not and which will never accomplish anything. Far worse than having bad optics is being an unserious leader. Our cause is too important for anything but serious and effective leadership. None of us are perfect. And just as the movement has had its moments of failure, leaders are also prone to failure. But we must never let failure hold us back from continuing to pursue success. We ought to be flinty-eyed realists about our own situation and to be aspirational idealists about our future. Yes, we face a dire situation. Yes, we face terrible odds. And yes, the cost of failure is very high indeed. But the only strategy that can succeed is one of boldness. We must dare. And even if we are to fail, we must do so while daring greatly. Our people are a people of heroes and of champions. This struggle now calls for a new generation of heroes, a new class of men who step up to the enemies of their people and who pledge their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honors to oppose them. We have to get away from the self-promoters, the grifters, and the cuckolds, and instead embrace those who are serious about the struggle. It is important to get the message out and to provide intellectual and moral sustenance to the remnant, but the message and our revolution must be what matters above all else, not personal stature, not fame, not wealth. Those who are unable to put the cause of our people ahead of their own selfish desires have no right to be leading us or profiting by our passion. The road ahead will not be easy. It will be at every step beset with peril and with hardship. Many will be called to make great sacrifices for the noble ideals which we pursue. There is no promise that we will see victory or success. But I call on all of you, the newcomer, the veteran, the rich and the humble, the leaders and the laborers, the old and the young, to join me in renewing our struggle. We must organize, we must agitate, we must have solidarity and a spirit of fraternity. We must never forget those who have suffered and fallen and been imprisoned for the cause. We must never lose our love of our people, and above all else, we must dare to be the heroes that this moment calls for. Our future is written in the stars, but it is up to us to get our people there. And so, I welcome you all to tonight's heel turn presentation of The Richard Spencer Show, The Comeback Kid. Joining me tonight are Richard Spencer, Mark Brahman, and in a little bit we'll be joined by Vincent James of the Red Elephants. How are you gentlemen doing this fine evening? Oh God.
Well, I am inspired. Yes, I was speechless, actually. I was not on mute. I was literally speechless. No, in all seriousness, that is an excellent commentary and call to action. I'm absolutely inspired by it, and particularly I'm inspired by the spirit in which it was delivered.
Okay.
Yeah, bravo.
The monologues, it's always good, right? You see so many people out there that it's like, oh, the live streams, we've got to do the live streams because they're profitable, right? They're easy. You throw on a thing and you go out there.
Yeah.
And I find that to be just like, yes, live streaming is good. Obviously, we've had a lot of success in dealing with the medium is good for us. But we've got to be really careful with these things, with these low bars of entry, because you get people in there with, bad ideas, and maybe they're good people. But if a bad idea takes hold, it can be more destructive than anything else. So, anywho, I know
I agree. I like this idea of renewal in 2019 and 2020 and beyond, and just basically looking at 2017 as this, you could say, an amazing moment, but also a moment when the empire struck back, going into 2018 with the deplatforming, with the doxing, with the personal attacks, with the just the change in the media tenor, where the alt-right was edgy and cool and cute and maybe a little sexy and kind of dangerous, to we must absolutely destroy you. That I noticed that change. I mean, I noticed it firsthand across 2017, and yeah, we need to learn from these mistakes. We not even learn from this experience. There were certainly, of course, mistakes are made, but it's more about just learning from this amazing experience so we can get better. I remember throughout 2018 or after 2017, I was told by a number of these other groups and so on. Oh, 2017 was so hard, and there was so much pushback, and you have to, Richard, you just have to step away. Or that was actually the nicest ones. Most of them were just engaging in all this just endless backbiting and backstabbing behind the scenes. And it's just like, all right, guys, you like the stage was yours. I've been deplatformed to a huge degree, particularly financially. I've been dealing with personal matters that have been just monopolizing not only my time, but also just my energy and kind of focus. And so it's like, okay, guys, here you go. Like, I'm the college tour, I've had to pull it back. I had to suspend it because of Antifa violence. I don't want to go to some place and just have a Antifa riot, and then people are afraid to attend these things. So I've suspended it. These people have had their chance, and they've done absolutely nothing, and they have not even approached what we were able to do. Including myself, to be frank, in 2016 and 2017, when we were just capturing the imagination and we were talked about, and people were obsessed with us. They feared us. They kind of weirdly loved us. They just wanted to talk about us. No, we're not anywhere. We're not anywhere close to that kind of relevancy. So these so-called pragmatists, it's like we've seen it. You guys suck. I mean, I'm sorry, but it's just like it's time for something new. And if any of these people had produced anything of value, then I would follow them. But the fact is, they're weak. There's just no other way to put it outside of they are weak. All of their strategies are based on fear, and I'm just tired of it. And I want this movement. I want the movement to be strong, where we're unified and we're friendly with one another, we respect one another, etc. But I also want the movement to be talking to an audience. We need to interface with the public and the outside world. I think so much of the so-called strategies of the past year, whether it's the American nationalism or some kind of innocuous version of identitarianism or whatever, it's just basically we've become this subculture that is irrelevant to the world. And the intellectual world, we're irrelevant to the political world, we're irrelevant to the cultural world. I'm sick of it. I don't like being irrelevant. I want, our ideas are powerful. The mainstream is obsessed with our ideas. There is not a day that goes by, arguably there's not an hour that goes by without some major figure being accused of racism and all of this kind of stuff. And it's basically used as a slur word. Both people deny it. Steve King comically denounced himself in a piece of legislation. But the fact is, there needs to be a real movement that thinks racially and has a vision for the future and is able to engage with the contemporary society. And all of these other strategies are just based on us losing, based on us being irrelevant, based on our own fear. And I get the fear. I think fear is well grounded to a large degree, but fear is not a strategy. And coming up with rationalizations for being fearful, rationalizations for just being mediocre, which, to be frank, is the basis of a lot of this stuff, is just not it's just not going to cut it. And so, yeah, I think it's time for the alt-right to be reborn. And it's going to happen in the next few years. We're going to have another moment, but we just need to be we need to be better grounded than we were over this past year and a half, in which the movement has engaged in endless infighting, and we've become irrelevant. And we need to have a basis in realism, but also an idealism that drives us, and not a basis in fear. One thing that I've been thinking about with regard to a lot of the movement is that so many people came into the alt-right and to the movement itself, or they came to alt-right ideas very late. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been thinking about these things in, oh God, I don't know when I first started seriously, reading alt-right material. It's in the mid noughties. So I've been thinking about this a long time, but most of these people who came on to the scene really came on quite late. They came on in late 2016 or 2017 and so on. And they got red-pilled in that period of Trump and the election and all that kind of stuff. And I think what's happened now is that they've actually been black-pilled in the worst sense. They've been black-pilled longer than they've been red-pilled. And so this kind of incessant hatred of the movement, or hatred of leaders, this just incessant, endless talk about, oh gosh, Matthew Heimbach really sucks. Just this endless backbiting, kind of laughing at the movement and so on. They've been doing this for longer than they've been awakened to the truth. And it's going to be very difficult to pull these people out of that mindset, because mindset is really what matters. It's not so much what happens. I mean, the day-to-day scene is an endless, chaos and nonsense, outrage, and so on. All that matters is whether we have the right mentality going forward. And we have not had the right mentality for a long time. So anyway, that is those are my thoughts. I'm ready for all of this to be reborn in 2019 and 2020 and going forward.